Significant changes are coming to Sombra, and Scott Mercer has put a massive post on the forums which outlines grouping in Overwatch and how that affects the game. And also, it's a little bit of a precursor to the LFG system going live, which hopefully will go live probably next week, maybe? Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Unit Lost. I am Stylosa. Right then, let's talk about Sombra first. So Jeff has been on the forums, and this is what he says. We have changes going in for Sombra for our July patch. Most likely, the changes will show up on the PTR sometime next week or soon after that. They are pretty significant. I'm not going to detail the changes for now, as they are still in flux, but playtesting has gone well, and we're eager to improve her. Now, this is in response to a thread where the OP is basically saying a number of very highly rated Sombra players are not very happy with Sombra, and she's pretty bad. This is true. Now, Sombra has been reworked. She was buffed. We thought she would be more effective, but we don't really see her get used all that often. And I'm fairly sure it's quite a simple problem. Sombra doesn't do enough damage. Now, this has always been my sort of standpoint on Sombra. She doesn't do enough damage to warrant picking her over a Tracer or another type of hero. But what she does have is the hack. Now, remember, when they did the pass on Sombra before, I remember Jeff Goodman spoke about this, but they want to increase her hack. They want to play up to her fantasy. Sombra is a hacker. She's got EMP, she's got hack, and all that stuff. Remember before, they changed her ultimate charge rate, so she can no longer charge her ultimate from hacked health packs, because they thought that was kind of, a bit of a bad way to play the game, trying to get your team to rush back to a health pack to just farm it. It wasn't very great, because EMP is still a really good ultimate. I mean, it's one of the best initiation ultimates in the game. It's just a fantastic ultimate. So what they did is they kind of increased Sombra's damage output a little bit. They made it more consistent for her to hit targets with her SMG. So they want you to be the sort of harassing Sombra. You go in Viz, you hit the backline, you do a bit of damage, you get a hack off. You keep repeating this until you get EMP, then you engage with EMP, and then you rinse and repeat. Like I said, the problem is there are a lot of heroes that are just more effective at the harassment role. Yes, when she's got EMP available, she is a powerful hero. But when she doesn't have that available, she's kind of doesn't really do anything. At least that's what I feel, right? And I'm fairly sure this is what most of the players are having a problem with. If you pick, like when I play Sombra, even in this footage you're seeing in the background, which I know is terrible Sombra gameplay, I'm not a Sombra player, but I often am feeling to myself in this game, I just want to play Tracer, or I just want to play Soldier, or I just want to play Widow or something. Like, I don't want to play Sombra because I'm not really doing anything. Like, I'm tickling the enemy. Yeah, it's fine. It's great. You might get the cheeky hack off on the ult in Winston, which, does make him useless and all of that stuff. But I don't know. Now, Jeff gives us no details here. All he says is there are going to be significant changes to Sombra on the PTR next week. Now, we know there's going to be bug fixes here, because Scott Mercer on the forums did say there will be bug fixes in that patch. So in terms of timeline, it looks like Jeff is talking about a July patch. Maybe the July patch is the big LFG patch, the big update. Kind of would, I suppose, make sense, but I hope we get LFG before that, because honestly, I can't really play ranked anymore because I know what it could possibly be like. Now, I'm not saying LFG and the endorsement system is going to fix the game. We're going to have to play with it to find out what goes on. But playing Overwatch on the PTR, even in quick play, it is so much more entertaining, so much more fun, because you get to play the heroes you want to play, or at least the role you want to play. And that, to me, is fantastic. I almost do not care about the quality of the game, so long as I get to play who I want to play and people actually try and play together. So let's move on to the next part of this video. This is the huge post Jeff Goodman, no, not Jeff Goodman, sorry, Scott Mercer, sorry, it was Scott Mercer put on the forums, about groups and matchmaking in Overwatch. And what's interesting about this post is it contains quite a few statistics, which are really interesting statistics, which give us a bit of an insight into the way that they approach the design of the game and the way that they look at statistics to back up what's going on with the game. Obviously, this is focused on groups and matchmaking. Now, I'm not going to go through all of this. It is a really long post. I've linked to it in the video description. Go and check it out if you want to read every little bit of detail here. Of course, Scott Mercer is the principal designer of the game. As far as I know, Scott is heavily involved with the matchmaker, with the SR system. That's why he would be the one putting this post forward. So what I want to do here is just read some bits of this off, and then we can discuss this, because it's pretty interesting. So the thing which gets confirmed here, which we actually had confirmed the other week when I interviewed Jeff, is that SR gains, if you're in a group, kind of doesn't matter. So this is what Scott says. The first and maybe most common misconception I want to correct is the belief that the competitive play system decreases your SR gains and increases your SR losses when playing in a group. The simple answer here is that there's no SR penalty based on your group status. It doesn't matter if you're solo, grouped with one person, or in a full group of 6. If you are a 2,800 SR player grouped with 5 other 2,800 SR players, the SR change after a win or loss is the exact same as if you played the game solo with 5 other solo 2,800 SR players. We also do not artificially inflate the SR of the players in a group when finding matches. There is simply no penalty at all for the purposes of calculating SR and matchmaking. It then goes on to say there are many other reasons for the SR gained or lost after a game to differ in magnitude that have nothing to do with grouping. And I'll quickly go over this, but just hold on to hold on to something, your desk or your phone or whatever you're watching this on, ladies and gentlemen. But this is what he says. What was the quality of the enemy team and your predicted win chance? You gain more on a win if your predicted win chance was under 50%. You gain less on a win if your predicted win chance was over 50%. Are you playing consistently? New accounts or accounts that have been inactive will see larger magnitude changes both upwards and downwards. This settles back to normal as you play additional games. Did your 3000 plus SR recently decay due to inactivity? If this happened, you'll gain more SR on a win when you get back to your undecayed SR, or until you get back to it. Are you a platinum tier player or below? If you perform particularly well, or worse than what is considered a typical performance during that match, then there's a small modification to reflect that. Is your current SR really high? Your SR increases less on a win than it decreases on a loss as your SR approaches its systemic limit of 5,000. So what he's saying there is there are loads of things which change the amount of SR you gain. I think what's going on here though, especially with grouping, is for me, and this probably relates to any other master level player. If you play in masters, even if you're like 3,500 rated, even if you're potentially below that and you play in like a triple stack, let's say 3,400 rated players, 3 of them get together and they queue at maybe an odd time of day. So let's say before 9 a.m. in the morning and they queue. They will most likely get put against very high skill players. And it almost feels like the system is punishing you because of that. Now, I don't know if that's just because there's a lack of players at that level. Like I said, in Masters and especially in low GM, I mean, I've done this in low GM, and honestly, this is complete suicide because the gap in player quality from like a 4.1k player to a 4.4 or a 4.3k player is huge. Like those players at 4.3 and above who consistently stay there throughout every single meta of the game are fantastic. They are mental. They will wreck a 4.1k rated player. So if you put 3 4.1k rated players together, you often find that you end up with like top 500s on the enemy team, and it's like, whoa, what's going on? And that's why it does feel like the matchmaker is a bit inconsistent. Now, I think when a lot of you guys out there that maybe don't play at that level, if you watch streams, most streamers are generally high level players. You'll see that when they group, you kind of see that reflected again. But of course, this isn't reflective of the entire community, is it? Because like it's a very small percentage that play in Masters and above. So it's not like they don't matter. Obviously they matter. But this post that Scott has made is more, I feel like it feels more generalistic in its approach. So that's kind of interesting. But like I said, there are tons and tons of stats in this. And I don't want to go like over all of them. Like I want to go over some of them though, because I think some of them are pretty good. So let's just talk about groups then. So Scott goes into detail on this, and this is what he says. Interestingly enough, there's actually more grouping going on than you might think. For the next set of data, we're going to look at all competitive games from February the 1st up to May the 28th of this year. Only 16% of all games purely consisted of solo players. That to me seems quite huge, because I always see solo. Like when I'm playing the game, I'm pretty much legitimately always in a game that's just full of solo queue. There's very rarely a duo stack, very rarely a triple stack. So 16% seems crazy, but maybe it's because at other levels of the game, people generally group together. I don't know. The most common match composition is 2-1-1-1-1-1 versus 2-1-1-1-1-1. 1-1-1-1. Yeah, that's 6, right? And that represents 28% of all matches. If you're in a full team of solo players, 73% of those matches were against another team of solo players, and another 24% were against a 2-1-1-1-1 team composition. Only 3% of the enemy teams were groups of 3 or more of players. If you're a duo, 74% of your matches are against 2-1-1-1-1 teams, 14%. You get what I'm saying, right? I want you guys to go and check this post out and have a look at it. There's a lot of stats in this, but essentially what Scott's saying is, actually a lot of people do group when they play Overwatch. It's the most common way to play the game is in a duo. Seems to be that way, or at least the most common games that get sort of made up contain at least one duo. Maybe it's not the most common way to play, because surely solo queue has to be the most common way to play. Anyway, at the very end of this post, he's got a bit of information which I just want to go over. So he says, like, this is kind of like the philosophy of the LFG system and what they're trying to fix. So I'm just going to not rush through this, but I'm going to go through this. So just let's do it. Let's do it, ladies and gentlemen. In spite of all of this, some players think that grouping isn't a good idea. They're afraid of being matched against other groups who may have been playing together for longer and thus have greater synergy. There are several issues with this line of reasoning. Most groups don't play very long together with the exact same lineup. It's actually pretty rare for the same group of 6 players to play together for a long time. It'll likely become even rarer with the looking for group feature, which makes it easier to create groups. Many of the benefits of grouping manifest soon after players come together. These benefits can increase the longer a group plays together, but they have diminishing returns. If 2 groups have similar mechanical skill and individual decision making, but one of the groups has formed a synergy advantage from playing together for a long time, that advantage will naturally result in higher SR. That means those 2 groups are not likely to be matched together because their players have different skill ratings. And then he goes on to say, another reason players don't group up is that it can be difficult to form groups. This is precisely the issue that the new Looking for Group tool addresses. If you enjoy playing tanks, you can find groups who really need you to hold the line. That to me there, it's almost criminal that it's taken Blizzard this long to actually tell us that they were working on this system. Like when I spoke to Jeff last week, and Jeff was like, yeah, 7 months ago, 8 months ago, I went back and I was like, oh yeah, we need to sort this out. I can't believe that they didn't just say, look, we're going to work on this system now, because obviously they were committing to it. I understand why they don't, because they may make a decision to go, oh, we're going to get rid of that, and they don't want to promise things which they can't deliver. But to me, this is something that needed to be addressed, because the game suffers heavily from you not being able to play the hero you want to play. You guys know, I've made loads of videos on this. I've gone crazy over it in the past. So to see this system finally coming out, it's beautiful. So, and finally, Scott wraps up the post with this. Don't worry too much about SR. Have fun. Play to learn and improve, and your SR will rise over time, which has always been my standpoint. Rank doesn't matter and all of that, because it doesn't. Obviously, it does, but it doesn't when you're trying to get better at the game, because you forget about that. Focus on yourself. Focus on what you should be doing right. Get better as a player. You know, reduce your amount of deaths. Learn the heroes that you play more. Become more competent within the meta. Understand comps and things like that, and ways you can outplay the enemy, and you just get more SR because you win more games. He goes on to say, playing more games with other people is pretty awesome. The LFG tool helps make this happen, so give it a try. And then he says, be good to one another, life's too short. Now, this is sage advice. A lot of the time, people think like, oh my God, how can Sty be happy all the time? It's because life's too short. A lot of you guys know I've got a thing called Crohn's disease, and that has taken a lot of years from me. So I understand that life is really too short, and you shouldn't really do things which make you feel not great. And Overwatch competitive doesn't really make you feel great, does it? So if this fixes it, I'll be quite happy. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been Stylosa, and this is Unit Lost. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, then like the video. And remember, you can subscribe to the channel and follow me on Twitter, which is @UnitLostGaming. We do have a competition running at the moment as well for HyperX goodies. I'm not going to tell you where the link is for that, though. You have to go and find it. Pro tip, it's on my Twitter. Go to my Twitter and you'll find it. All right, guys, I'll catch you on the next one. Toodaloo.